Okay, looks like we're live. Can you hear me? You could turn your volume on, see if we can hear me there.
Even see you.
Why is it not? I do not know. Sorry. Technical. This is always a technical beginning here. Entertainment on subscribers only mode. Only channel subscribers can send messages. Okay. Lauren. Oh, Ellie, can you hear me okay? Is my sound all right? And Lauren, MLH, someone let me know if my sound is on okay. Oh, thumbs up. Okay. So, oh, the banner on DOA's site. Yeah, I know he had. We sent him a huge banner, like 8-foot long banner, but he made some smaller ones as well. So I don't know if you saw the smaller one or the bigger one, but that big one, I don't know where he's going to hang it. Maybe on the side of one of the trucks, but enormous banner. So that one that you saw will be like, I think it was 4 feet by 8 feet, huge banner. Similar to the one we did for the Call Me campaign, but this one was, it said call us instead of call me, and it was from my wife and I to our kids, and we had our personal phone number on there. So so we'll get lots of spam calls probably from Scientology. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. All right, there's more people coming in. I appreciate that. Susan, Lily, Eve, Lauren, Jen Wow, welcome everybody. And so I wanted to go over a couple of things right off the bat. I had a couple of people ask me things like, just questions about some other activists in this Scientology arena, and also, a little bit about some of the comments other people were making about other people and stuff. So here's my view, just so that you know kind of where I stand on that subject. And I'll do it by an analogy here. I think I did similar thing on the interview I did with MHL. Or MLH, I'm sorry. So I imagine it's like World War I. You're in the trenches, standing in the mud and the dirt, and you're standing up once in a while, popping some shots off at the enemy. And that's kind of, we got some people on the left, some people on the right, and they're all kind of firing shots off at the enemy, and we're standing there. And some of them, might be nicer people, some not. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to reach down, pick up some dirt, and toss it at any of them. I'm basically here to stand up and take pot shots at the enemy. And some of these guys that are out here doing similar things are better shot than I am. They're shooting off more bullets than I am, figuratively speaking, of course. So that's kind of my view. I'm just here to do the job, and as much as I can with what few resources we have, and just kind of fight the fight and expose Scientology abuses. So anyway, that's my view. I just wanted to clear up, because I had a few people asking me about this and that. And Clearwater, Erie, PA, did you see the DOA banner? Yes. Yeah, we sent, like I was saying earlier, we sent him that big banner, 4 feet by 8 feet, and then he made some smaller ones with it. So so the title of my talk today was this thing with Kumbaya and Scientology, get off my lawn. So the whole thing on the Kumbaya thing was like, there's no way really to get along with Scientology, because they will always act in a way that's beneficial only to Scientology. I mean, you look at Clearwater City Council, now that Mark Bunker is off there, there's nobody in there. And then when they're talking about, we'll have to work with Scientology to build the town and all that, it's just not going to happen. You can't ally with Scientology, because they're only ever going to operate to the benefit of Scientology, and usually to the detriment of others. So it's just not gonna be a benefit to anybody to ally with Scientology in any way. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to disrespect some of the people that are in it. You know, they're basically, a lot of them are just good people. Some of them are caught up in the activities and abuses somewhat, but like I was said last week, everybody in Scientology, to one degree or another, even if it's just giving money, has contributed to the abuses of that cult. So, so the whole thing about Scientology, get off my lawn. 1965, I was in school. I was 12 years old, and there was a kid who lived behind us in the house right behind us, and for him to get home, he would have had to walk all the way down Bircher, down another. I mean, he would have to. It was like a long ways for him to walk around, because there was no sort. So he would always cut through our yard, always, and I didn't mind. You know, okay, it's a shortcut. But after a while, I started to notice this path, and the fence was getting wrecked, because he would just climb the fence and he didn't care, and he would just wreck the fence. The lawn actually had a path. The grass was worn down, and so I talked to him about it. He didn't care. He just didn't care about the fact that he was wrecking the lawn and stuff. So, and I started getting more and more angry. And here I was, a kid, 12 years old, and said, "Get off my lawn." That's for old people to do, really, I think, not for kids. But Scientology, they get into your business in everything. They are back, I guess, around, I can't remember when it started, but around maybe 2008 or something. It started to become a thing where if somebody got out, and if you were on Facebook and you had them on your friends list, that you would be told to take them off your friends list. And that was common. And there were people who actually made it their project, some Scientologists. I remember this one lady, Jojo something or other, and she was like, that was her whole thing in life, was to expose, like, you know, oh, you have so-and-so on your friends list, you need to take them off. Well, that was happening to us. We were in Scientology kind of, but at that time, like after 2009, we were in Scientology kind of, but out in our heads, but pretending to still be in. And I would get these messages from my sister, who was high up in Scientology and on OT8, and say, "Oh, you've got so-and-so on your friends list, you need to take them off." And I didn't want to kind of cause any rift that might cause us some problems, so I would kind of do, okay, fine. And most times it was just somebody on my friends list that I never talked to anyway. And I think one of them was Debbie Cook, who was on my friends list, but I'd never even met her. She used to be the executive director at Flag in Clearwater. And then when she left, she wrote that whole letter to, oh, Nora's here. Nora, we know Nora. Nora's an old friend of ours. She was, Nora, sorry, I got to interrupt this story, because when we did that old TV show I talked about, I think I talked about it a little last week, Nora was in there, part of it with us. And we've known Nora for a long time, and nice to see you here, Nora, really. So anyway, back to the Facebook story. So, so then my sister kept doing this, and so I thought, well, on Facebook you can hide your friends list. So I did that, and then I was still getting these calls or these messages from my sister saying, "Take this person off your friends list." I thought, how the heck does she still know if my thing is? But what had happened was, I think, this is my theory, is that she had copied my entire friends list down. And then as those people left Scientology, she would go, okay, he must still have them on there. And she would send me a message, take this person off. I think there was one person that I hadn't really talked to in a long time. But then what happened was, she told us to take this family off of our friends list, because they had left Scientology. But we had known them for like 25 years. They were good friends and nice people. So I just said to my sister, look, no, you can't tell us who to be friends with or who not to be friends with. And so I just kind of ignored her. And I figured my friends list was private, so you know, hopefully it wouldn't get into the Scientology world. But this, we're outside, we're getting like ants and bugs and stuff. No worries. Scientology, this was really common, not just with us, but back then especially. I think it still goes on, but not as heavily as it did back, I guess, 2009 through 2014 or something, where it was a real project where anybody had somebody on their friends list. And that's how Scientology kind of gets into your life. They want to control who your friends are and who you can't be friends with. They want to control that. They'll get on your lawn. They'll do. I had been to several orgs in my life. I went to Toronto org, and I had services at St. Hill and one small service at Flag. But at one point, in the old days, Hubbard had basically made it forbidden to share mailing lists between orgs. But there was a point when when things became computerized, that there became sort of this more central database. And I started getting these promotions from different orgs, like somewhere, I think Louisiana or something, and from Texas, and you know, it was duplications of stuff, like the same, but orgs I'd never been to. And I had, and so one day I thought, you know, it's just getting too much. It's just loading up my email. So I wrote to at least two of the orgs and say, look, take me off your mailing list. I never went to your org, just take me off your mailing list. Well, in Scientology, that's a no-no. You can, if you ask to be taken off a mailing list, they will consider you like disaffected. That means you're so upset with Scientology. And so what happened was, one evening, I think it was like 10:30 in the evening, there was a knock on the door, and I went to see who it was. It was from Flag, that we were in Clearwater at the time. It was the ethics officer with an auditor to handle me, because they thought, oh, you must be disaffected if you're asking off a mailing list. You must be, oh my God, he's ready to go. So anyway, I let them in. I thought, you know, what the heck, I'll explain to them. It took a long time for them to get it across that I'm not asking off the mailing list. I'm asking off the mailing list of but that's how they want to control you. They came to our house at like 10:30 at night. I think it was at least 10:30 at night, or maybe a bit later, knocking on the door with an auditor, with an e-meter, ready to sit me down and find out what my crimes are, because they thought I was disaffected with Scientology because I asked off a mailing list. It's a no-no in Scientology. You cannot do that. So I mean, they ended up going away. I mean, after a while, I kind of got it across to them, and it was fine at that point. But again, it's like Scientology will not. I mean, they'll get into your life. They'll get into your business in every aspect of it. I mean, you've seen lots of things about it. It's like, just in auditing, and when you go on course and they ask you all these questions, or you're going on staff, they have these interrogatory things where you have to fill in all your information. I remember when I was first in and having to list out every possible drug I had ever done, all the contacts. We had family contacts, everything. They want to know everything about you. There's no privacy. I think Hubbard even said something like that you don't consider someone to have any privacy. You dig in and you ask, you just dig in and get whatever you can out of it. So and in many ways, people have seen this actually in like if they go and buy a book from a Scientology org, they're followed for the rest of their lives. They get mailings, and if they move, they change their phone number, they move again and again and again. 20 years down the road, they're going to get a letter saying, "Oh, you bought a Dianetics book back in 1982. Hey, why don't you come in for a whatever? Or are you still interested? Did you like the book or whatever?" They'll just, once they're in your life, they just do everything. The only way you can kind of get out of having them in your life is just get declared. But even then, they've got the whole thing of fair game on that too. So, you know, stay away. Kids, stay away from Scientology. Stay away. It's just not worth getting in. When we first moved to Canada about 5 years ago, we lived in the States for 30 years, so I got a Canadian phone number. And I hadn't really gotten it out there much because we were still kind of, our American phones we could use here in Canada. So it was like, you know, I'll get a Canadian number and then I'll kind of get around to it. I think there were a couple of people that had it, but really. And then one day I had a voicemail on my, a voicemail from the Toronto org on that number. And I got, how in the hell did they get that number? I have no idea to this day how they would have gotten that number. Anyway, it was through a voicemail. So, and because at the time, I think I had that number going straight to voicemail. So I took the voicemail off and I had it forward to my cell number. And I think it was maybe a month later, I got a phone call and somehow that number had gotten into Scientology's computerized system, but they had the wrong name on it. They had the name Jeff on that for some reason. So I got a phone call from St. Hill in the UK asking for Jeff. And I said, yeah, this is Jeff. So I thought, well, you know, maybe I can have a conversation with this guy. And so, you know, I talked to the guy a little bit and I recorded the whole conversation. I've got the recording of everything that we said. And I kind of wanted to get in the conversation initially because I thought, well, you know, before I start throwing stuff at him that's just going to make him hang up or chase him away, I thought, well, maybe I can kind of get the guy to open up a little bit. So by the time I started to get into stuff, I started to talk about disconnection. And this is a Sea Org member representing one of the top orgs on the planet at St. Hill in the UK. And his comment about disconnection and because I told him, I said, there's thousands of families that have been disconnected. And his view of that was that they are just collateral damage in the Scientology's efforts to clear the planet. And he said that several times. Yeah, I don't know if he used the words collateral damage, but that was what he was saying, is that they were basically collateral damage in their efforts to clear the planet. And I couldn't get him over that. I said, well, you're breaking up families, you're causing disconnection. He said, well, it's part of it. Has, you know, if that happens, it happens, but we have a job to do, you know, it's just like crazy. Anyway, the point being is that they had my phone number, which was crazy. I don't know how they do it, but they get into your life just so amazingly. I mean, I haven't really seen anything here in Canada aside from that, except one day, Willie and I get up sometimes really early to watch the sunrise, and we'll sit with the big window open, or the big window, the blinds open, whatever, and have our coffee and just watch the sunrise. So it was dark outside, and it was trash day. We see some guy picking up the bag of trash from our trash dumpster and walk away down the street to the corner, get in his car and go away. I don't know if it was Scientology, but it wasn't the recycling for cans where you might cash it in or something. It was the bag of trash that the guy took. Now, this was right around the time when we were doing the billboard in LA recently, a couple of months ago. So I don't know if it had anything to do with that, whether they were looking for, you know, see if we were making other plans and stuff. So I think it's amazing that you can reach out to, can you see your comments? What was that one about?
Clearwater Erie PA says, I think it's amazing that you can reach out to the streamers. I hope the rest of the Aftermath Foundation can follow your example.
Yeah, and they may or may not. The thing is, it's like what I was saying earlier about, you know, here we are in the trenches doing pot shots, and some people are going to have mortars, and some people are going to have rifles, and some people are going to throw hand grenades. You know what? If someone's out there doing stuff, and the Aftermath is doing a lot. I mean, that's the one thing that I saw, having been on that board for the short period of time I was. They are doing a lot. They're helping a lot of people. So I have nothing negative to say in that at all. And the only reason I left was because I wanted to start, my messaging was going to be a little bit different. And the Aftermath is about helping people who come out, which is good, and I am for that. but I wanted to be a little bit wider on my message. And when I was starting the live stream, I didn't want to be sort of coming out sort of representing the aftermath or something like that, or you know, having my message sort of focused in there and at all. So there wasn't anything negative in there at all. I still support them, and I support the fact that there's more than one foundation. I really do. There are probably at least 4,000 or 5,000 Sea Org members, and if the way things are going with Scientology shrinking the way it is, if in the next year or two 1% of those people come out, and it might take $15,000 or $20,000 to get somebody up and running on their feet. You know, 2 or 3 months rent, maybe some transportation, some, you know, whatever it takes. It takes some wherewithal to get that many people up on their feet. And you're talking 1% of 5,000 people. You're talking $1 million just for that 1%. Now, what happens if 10% come out? So definitely, if there's several, if we had 5 foundations, I'd be thrilled. You know, just bring it on, because we're gonna need it at some point. I think there's going to be an exodus. I don't know how long it'll take, because Scientology has a lot of money and they do make it difficult to leave. But there will be a point, because less and less people are staying in Scientology. So I think at some point it's going to hit a tipping point, and then some of these Sea Org guys are going to start to come out and need some help. And yeah, just on the one last point on that mailing list thing. I mean, Hubbard's comment on it is basically the size, not the quality of your mailing list, and the number of mailings to it alone determine gross income. And in his mind, you know, in Scientology, it's all about the money. So gross income means how much money you're bringing in. So somehow he had this formula that the more mailings you send out, so any name that's in their central files, they want to keep as many as they can. And the only time they'll take one off probably is if a person is declared a suppressive. So for the most part, they're going to chase down people. They want to keep their mailing list and keep it running as long as they can. And you know, unless the person like just criticizes. But people have asked to be taken off, and they still stay on it. I mean, it's basically you know, grow the mailing list and keep sending mailings out to it. Man, I ran through my whole list really fast. So if anybody has any questions, I am an open book. I will answer any questions about anything. Where I am is, where we are right now is Niagara-on-the-Lake, which is just north of Niagara Falls. Straight ahead of me, behind this stand of trees here, is Niagara River, which goes from Lake Erie over the falls and down to Lake Ontario. And behind me is wine country. Canadian wines are big in this area. I know in British Columbia they have wines as well. But here they have, I think it started off with the wine country here with a winery called Inniskillen, where they started off with their ice wines. And some of the ice wines I really like, some of them not as much, but some of them are very sort of fruity tasting. I think they pick the grapes when they're somewhat frozen. I think somehow they do that, and I don't know how they prepare it and whatnot. But anyway, wines in Canada started to become a thing. So this area used to be all fruit trees, mostly fruit trees like pears and peaches and apples. And there's still a lot of that around here. But when people realized that the money is in wine, then it all became wine, like grapes and wine. Yeah, oh yeah, right across the river in front of me here is the United States. And sometimes if we're driving down the road, the park, they call it the Parkway, River Road, whatever, we're so close to the States, sometimes their cell signal is stronger than ours, and we'll get a thing on our phone, welcome to the United States. Have you got roaming on or whatever? Question, have you ever been to Tobermory? Yes, I did my first open water dive when I did my scuba diving course back, wow, that would be in the late 70s, I think it was. But we used to go up there a lot when I was a kid. You know, I was born and raised in Canada, so yeah, Tobermory. In fact, we're going through there this summer. We're going to take the ferry from Tobermory over to Manitoulin Island, and you know, we're going to do a little trip this summer and go through Tobermory and on the ferry across to the island. And oh yeah, MLH. Yeah, we had a really MLH. You should check his channel out. He does a really good interview. I felt quite comfortable with him. I'm not that outgoing, so for me to talk for that long was a lot. But I felt so comfortable with him that we just went on, and he would ask the right questions, and somebody asked me the right question, and I'm rambling on for a while. But it was kind of a fun interview to do, and like I say, longer than I normally would talk. But so Sandy Lee lived close to there, loved the wine country. Yeah, it's beautiful countryside around here. I belong to a motorcycle group in the area, and we do a ride once a week, and there's usually maybe 12, 15 of us, sometimes more. And we're literally 5 minutes from the country, and then we're out on these beautiful winding country roads. Martha, I'm not really outgoing. I'm actually quite shy, but sometimes I mean, I have to fight it a little bit. I'm, you know, you ask Willie, before I do these live streams, it takes me a bit of a fight to kind of get myself into being able to talk. And I know I'm talking a lot, but anyway, if it's a subject that I know something about, or if somebody asks me a question that kind of gets me off on a certain thing, once my mind is going down that road, I can talk through it and get through the subject a little bit. But but no, we like living in this area. It's just beautiful. Plus, the other thing is, because we're between kind of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, we get sort of the lake effect. So we don't get the extreme cold, and we don't get the extreme heat. And there's more snow south of us, like in the Buffalo area, and north of us. We often miss it. I mean, we do get snow here, but it's a lot less. And this area here on this end of Lake Ontario is called the Golden Horseshoe. The earth is really rich here for growing, and that's why there's a lot of fruit trees and the grapes and stuff. I mean, it's just very good growing area, and the climate is a little bit more mild. And plus, we're farther south in Canada almost than anywhere. I mean, if you look on a map, like we're like kind of in the dip where the Great Lakes are, and we're all not quite at the bottom. If we went there's a place on Lake Erie that has this peninsula that goes down into the lake, and that's the southernmost area of Canada. I really wish, though, that Canada would buy an island in the Caribbean that we could kind of go to sometimes in the winter time. But do you think William would make it to Hamilton on the 16th? That's a good possibility. I missed the rest of that. What was she asking? I'm sorry. Those comments, sometimes they flash. Oh, here it is again. A little birdie told us about an event going on. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll get in touch with you guys. And then, on the 16th, I don't know what day that is, but yeah, we should be able to make it out there. That would be kind of cool.
So Martha Simmons has a question.
Yeah.
She says, did you ever meet Arnie Lerma? Anything you can tell us about his Scientology battles?
No, I don't think we ever met Arnie Lerma. But he wasn't Canadian, though, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. Sandy Lee, Elliot, I want to be there for you. Yeah, so Hamilton is where, for those of you who don't know, Canada has a Sea Org contingent called the CLO, Continental Liaison Office, CLO. And that is kind of the Sea Org management division for over Canada. And that's located in Hamilton. It used to be in Guelph, Ontario. And they had a bigger building in Guelph, but now they've rented a church, it used to be like a church. And they moved in there, and they've got some offices in there. I don't know where their quarters are, because the Sea Org people, they get their room and board covered. I don't know if they're in the same building, whether they sleep in the church somewhere or not, but their offices are in the church there. So that's Hamilton, but I'm not sure if that's what they're talking about with an event. I'll find out. And anyway, so yeah, 16th. Yeah, we should be able to be there. I got the note. It's about 15 minutes away for you. Okay, good. So yeah, so hopefully we can get a few people out there and make some noise and you know, protest. Like I say, it's an expression of disagreement with the abuses and activities of the cult. So you know, we can try to get in conversations with some Scientologists if possible. It's difficult to do, but they're housed in the church. Oh, Sandy Lee, thank you for that. I wasn't sure. I had a suspicion that that would be the case, even if they did it illegally. I don't. Although there's, I guess they have what's that they call the rectory, where the minister for churches would live, which is probably zoned properly for residential. But I can see that if they rented that entire property, that they could actually house their Sea Org members there. Probably makes more sense than what they had in Hamilton, or in Guelph rather, because they had a separate building for the offices. And I'd gone out there once, and there were some people out there, and before they knew who I was chatting with a bunch of them. There was, I think, 6 or 7 of them out smoking cigarettes. Scientologists still, some of them do smoke, until they realized who I was, and then they all went running inside. Welcome everyone to the stream. Oh, I missed that. Was that? I do want to welcome everybody who's on here. You know, I tell you, the one thing I worry about doing this is if nobody shows up. But I do appreciate everybody coming out and just kind of participating, and it does make a difference. It really does. You know that. Speaking out and messaging like that, I mean, really, ultimately, that's how we ended up getting out of Scientology, is the stuff on the internet. And different things trigger different people in different ways. So the more information that's out there, the wider, and the support of people in the chat, bring up questions that are relevant.
Speaking of questions,
do your brother and sister in Scientology have children in Scientology? Yes, very good question. My brother has 3 kids, 1 from his first marriage, 2 from his 3rd marriage. His second wife, he didn't have any kids with, and his current 4th wife, they didn't have any kids. So and they're all in Scientology. None of them are in the Sea Org. I don't think they ever were. I think one of them was going to join this. No, one of them was in the Sea Org. Dylan was in the Sea Org. But anyway, and my sister has 1 son, and he is in the Sea Org. And if he's still in, then he's in Hamilton with the CLO at the offices in Hamilton. Because when I went to Guelph at that time, and I said, "Oh, I'm Rory's uncle. Is he still working here?" "Yes, he is. And can you go up and tell him that I'm here to say hello?" And anyway, that he didn't come down because somebody else came down and said, "You know, you're declared. You got to be out of here." But yes, both my brother and my sister have kids, and they're all in Scientology, and they're all disconnected from us, and they have not had anything to do with us for over a decade. So, in fact, my brother and sister live literally 10 minutes from us. Yeah, not good. But I'm more concerned with our kids and getting our kids out. That's my goal at this point. And you know, those banners that like DOA is putting up and stuff like that, and what MD Media puts up. You know what? I tell you, that kind of pressure is going to getting that out there enough like that. When we did our billboards back in 2016, the dates go flying. Anyway, we ended up getting a call from, actually, when we put up the posters around Celebrity Center, we got a call from our son. Basically, he was surrounded by his handlers and said, you know, no. But we did get a call. And from our daughter, when we were doing the billboards, we got a call from her to also, again, Scientology was trying to get us to stop doing that. But you know, so it does make a difference, and it has made a difference in the past. So question, is Emily Mike allowed to see their kids? They don't have kids. They're not allowed to have kids in Sea Org. Our grandkids are, we have one other son, but I don't bring him up because it's tough for him. He doesn't want to be involved. He's had a hard time even missing his brother and his sister. But he's got kids, and we're in touch with them. And so, but Michael and Emily don't have kids. They're both married, but they're not allowed to have kids in the Sea Org these days. So, but apparently Emily did want kids. She actually asked somebody at some point, "Do you think I'm too old for that now?" And so I think she did want, but she's also getting to that age where it's going to be a little difficult for her too. But anyway, all right. Any other questions? And I've only done 35 minutes. Oh my gosh. See, when I'm talking to my own, I need to have MLH asking me questions here so that I can carry on talking. So on another subject, LA, there's some happening stuff out there, and I've been kind of following it a little bit. So I think that starting this week, they're setting up some real big stuff down there, and they're going to feed the poor or the homeless, and they're going to set up some tents for them. You know, it's really brilliant. You know, I watched that when DOA was walking on L. Ron Hubbard Way, and all those security guys were surrounding him. The event at the Blue Building today, does it mean that Sea Org members serve the public, or do Sea Org members go to enjoy the events too? Sometimes the Sea Org members will go out into the events just to make them look busier than they are. Because sometimes what will happen is if there's a very sparse attendance, they don't want it to look that way. So they might send a few Sea Org members out there, but usually not. Usually the Sea Org members are just kept busy, and it's make work busy kind of stuff a lot of times. Typically not. But I mean, they'll be out there serving and stuff like that. But as far as just being at the event, not usually. But I had to laugh when DOA was there, surrounded by these possible protesters at every org of the banner you create, whatever you like. I mean, if you want to print them off, but it's the one I did was a little bit more specific for our kids, which are in LA. I could see if we could do something a little bit more generic about for people. Like when we did the Call Me posters, we didn't do them specifically for our kids. We did those. The message was, to my loved one in Scientology, call me, and then it had our website on there, Stop Scientology Disconnection, and we could do something for everybody, because the one I gave to DOA was specifically for our kids, but because they're in LA at those locations, it was a little more appropriate. But for other orgs, I think that probably something along the lines for just on disconnection. I mean, even just the old Call Me billboard would probably be appropriate still at this time. You know, for people to call their loved ones. You know, just get in touch, because almost every Scientologist at this point probably has some family or friend that they've disconnected from, been made to disconnect from by Scientology. They'll claim that it's their choice, but it's not really a choice, because if they were in touch with someone who was declared or persona non grata, then would you be there in LA? If you were in yes, 100, yeah, definitely. I would be down there with those guys as much as I could anyway.
So Robin W. has a question. Yep. Which protesters do you find yourself watching most often, and why? Thank you.
You know, I tried to watch as many different ones as I can, because sometimes you get different viewpoints of what's going on in different places. But some of them I've made friends with, you know, like MD Media and Jay and DOA and some of these guys that I consider that they're, I mean, uh, um, I just don't. I mean, there's hundreds of them out there now, or at least 100 um, live streamers in different cities, and I do watch some. Uh, um, Elron Liar, I like. Uh, you know, the thing about him, whenever I listen to him, and anytime he's not on the screen, if he's pointing the camera somewhere else, I swear his voice sounds just like Christian Slater. You go listen to him on his live streams, and when you don't like just tell me if his voice sometimes, if it sounds just like Christian Slater. He's like, I get a kick out of that, because like the little celebrity aspect of it, but it's kind of cool. And then, yeah, there's a bunch of others I do. And and then also some of the Toronto guys like Scooter Mom and LA and Toronto, and, you know, and some of the other ones there as well. So I, oh, El Run Liar's on it here. Okay, try to do my channel, the Inner Christian Slater. I think it's awesome. I get a cable. I'll go on there just for my Christian Slater voice fixed sometimes, but I like the way he talks too. He's got a good demeanor. Question: can you talk about? Oh, it went right by. Detective Aludo.
Okay, so the question: can you talk about the call-in process when people call the Aftermath phone number? Is there a 24-hour call center, or do board members rotate to answer the call?
Okay, there is a call center that handles it, but depending on the type of call, they will route it to the correct person, which will be a live person, one of the Aftermath board members, who would handle whatever specific that thing is. So yes, 24/7, that phone number is answered. I tested it myself once too. I called it late at night. I did get someone answering, so yes. But so I'll show you what's on the other side of here, just real quick, just real briefly. It's just trees and bushes, but beyond those trees is the river, and just past the river is the United States. So we are close to the United States. And the road behind me, you see all these cars and motorcycles coming by. This is the Parkway, which goes from Lake Erie, Fort Erie, which is right on the Lake Erie, all the way down to Lake Ontario, Niagara-on-the-Lake, the town of.
Beautiful winery.
Yeah, it's a really nice area. It's just beautiful in here. And where one of these days, I got to ask permission. Oh, do you have a riding mower? It's so beautiful. I don't have a riding mower. You know, I always dreamt of being like the Forrest Gump guy, sitting on the riding mower, riding around mowing the lawn. When I was a kid, I had a job mowing lawns, and I would just go around and I'd get paid. That's how I made my money in the summer. I'd mow lawns. And then one of my friends of my mom's, this guy was fairly wealthy, and he lived in the country, and he had a sit-down mower, and he hired me to mow his lawn. I thought, oh, this is the best thing ever. I'm going to be able to drive a sit-down lawnmower. And so I scheduled it out. I came out to his house, rode my bicycle all the way out there in the country, and I knocked on the door and said, I'm here to mow the lawn. He said, no, I got a sit-down mower. I'm going to do it myself. I was like, oh man, that was just like, and this guy had enough money. He could have given me $2 and I would have done it, you know, just to be, I would have done it probably for free, just to sit on that riding mower and do that. So, but I did get to do a sit-down lawnmower once, and that was when we were living in Florida, and a friend of mine, we took a motorcycle ride from Florida up to Canada, and we had some friends in Georgia. He had a big farm, kind of surrounded by trees and everything. He had a big pasture out back, and he said, yeah, he's got to get out there and do that. I said, I'll do it. So I got on his mower, and it took me like most of the day. It was huge area, but I was loving it. It was great. When I finished, I said, any more? So he said, well, you could rake the padlock. What do they call that? Where the horses stay in. It was like a dirt, and he had this thing with these sort of claws on it, and he said, just hook that up to the back of the tractor and drag that around, and we'll smooth it all out. So I did that next, and it was great. I'm like the Forrest Gump of sit down lawnmower. So I would do it for free for somebody just to do that. Anyway, great question. Oh, this is not our yard. This is not our home where we are here right now. So I don't have to mow this. This is actually Niagara Parkland that we're at. All along this whole area from all the way from Lake Erie all the way down to, there's all these parks set up with picnic tables, little parking lots and stuff. And, you know, we're just sitting at a picnic table here in one of the parks along the way. And there's like lots of these parks. And they're just a beautiful place to sit. And the thing about Canadians is they use them. They come out here and they have picnics. Lots of Canadians are out having picnics out on these picnic tables every weekend, and sometimes during the week a lot too. But Canadians like to picnic, and they'll come out and set up at a picnic table and do a little cookout, or just bring their food and eat it at the picnic table. So let me see if I had any other Scientology related things that I hadn't covered. I think I've covered all the things. Oh, I missed. Was there a question in there? For some reason, they flash on the screen and then they leave. They go.
Robin W. says, do you know Tori?
Tori Crispin's a friend. We've known Tori for some time. When I was in LA a couple of months doing the billboard, Tori and I went for lunch, and it's just she's a really good friend, and and we stay in touch on the phone as well. Yeah, I love Tori. She's and I tell you, Tori is one of those people that's been around protesting for longer than almost anybody I know. She's been, I mean, used to see her going to the test center before it got shut down recently. She would go out there and just talk to the people at the tables, and you know, but she's done a ton of videos over the years. She's definitely one of the original YouTubers. She's been out there for a long time, but yeah, Tori, love her. And you know, if we're in LA, we go and see Tori. You know, that she's definitely a good friend. So, all right. So, DOA just gave you a shout out for helping with his kitchen setup today. That was very sweet of you. I don't know what I did with the kitchen setup, but except for the posters and the banner, it's almost as big as a billboard. I'm curious to see how it looks. I don't know where he's going to hang it. Maybe on the side of one of those big rental trucks he's got there. I don't know. I'm curious to see what he does with it. But it's a big vinyl billboard banner. I mean, 8 feet long. That's pretty big. It's going to be pretty visible. So that's going to be kind of interesting. But I'm looking forward. Are you watching the convoy today? I'm not yet. After this, I will, and I'm going to go on and just watch and see how it's going. If we were there, I'd drive in that convoy. I'd go along with it for sure. I think it's amazing that what these guys are doing. You know, they're just effective. They're setting up now. Lots of people helping. Good. Well, you know, I probably should wrap this up so people can go and watch that, because that's definitely something to support. And I think that if we can get on there and support them, throw them a few bucks when we can, if we're able to. But I appreciate you guys kind of coming and hanging out with us today. Willie's here with me. She doesn't always come on camera, but but she's here to support me, yes. And she'll read the questions if they go.
Give a little wave.
If the questions fly by on me too fast, then she'll reread them. You mentioned a few streams ago that you had exciting plans in the future. You know what? It was, yeah, unfortunately what happened was we had some plans for some billboard style things, and we had 2 really good ones lined up, and Scientology just swooped in and shut them down before they got off the ground. So yeah, unfortunately, that was that. So I'm hoping that DOA can get this current banner up, this sort of billboard banner. So, but yeah, I mean, Scientology, they're a tough one to go against in some areas, and there are companies still out there that are still afraid of them. You know, I think at this point, probably the more effective way to do it is, you know, if somebody's got a van, to put a sign on the side of it or whatever. It's got to be private, something or other. Media companies, they're still, and you know, in some ways, I don't blame them. I mean, they don't know if they get a cease and desist or a threat to sue from Scientology, they don't know that Scientology is not going to sue them. They don't know that, and they don't want the hassle of it either. They don't want to go, you know, if they sue us, it's going to cost us $1 million or some stupid thing. So, I mean, and every contract in those companies, they all have outs so that, you know, if they decide to not publish your thing. So, you're a beautiful soul, Willie. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She is a beautiful soul. And that she's stuck with me in all my bad jokes for all the years.
I love them.
Thank God for that. All right, everybody. I'm going to sign off, and then I'm going to probably go and start looking at some of the convoy. And oh yeah, I'll get some moving billboards going. And all right, so I got to find out the off switch on this thing. I pardon my finger over here. Thank you, J-Bat, and thank you everybody for showing up. I really do appreciate it. It very, very thankful and very appreciated. Where there's a will, there's a way, Phil. The street, just the street. Yes. Protests and this kind of thing have worked in the past, and they will continue to work. We just have to keep at it, and we will keep at it. All right, bye everybody, and thanks again very much for coming by and hanging out with me. Okay, bye. All right, I think that's it.